Hey everyone! In this video, we are going to start talking about some practical and easy to understand orchestration guidelines. And in this video, we will be talking about doubling. So doubling is basically when you take one instrument or one melody and you combine it with another instrument or several instruments. And when you start making orchestral music and you start orchestrating, you are bound to encounter situations where you have to double a melody line or harmony line, or where you just need to combine instruments. So we're going to go through a little rule of thumb when combining instruments. So I want you guys to just think of the orchestration as kind of painting, because every instrument has its own color, and the combination of these colors yield different results. Because you already have the harmonies, you already have the melodies, you have like the main motifs, the objects in the paintings you want to create, but the choice of instruments and the act of combining these instruments is going to dictate the tone color you're going to get out. So when you're combining instruments, think of it like painting. You already have the motif, let's say a house by the sea. You have like the melody and the chords, but orchestration and the instrumentation is kind of going to be the decision of how you choose to do the brush strokes, which colors you choose to apply, and how you choose to combine these colors to finish your composition. So, when doubling, think about tone color and not range. If you want to double a flute melody, don't just reach randomly for, say, the trumpet, just because it is in the same kind of range. Like flutes are high, so I guess trumpets are high too, so let's combine them, right? Not really. The best way to go about it is to rather think about the tone color you want to achieve and try to match instruments of similar tone colors that add to the existing sound. For example, making a flute melody more rich, thick, and vibrant by doubling it with violins, or giving it more roundness and warmth by adding a clarinet melody an octave below. You'd usually want to double for one of these two reasons most of the time. Either you want something to become louder and bigger, or you just want some kind of specific tone color that you cannot achieve with only one instrument. So you're going for the color. For example, if you have a flute melody again, but the harmony layer is too loud, for example, brass chords or something, right? And you might probably want to strengthen the flute melody to make it more audible, to pierce through and be heard past the brass chords. Or maybe only have a piano and harp plus maybe some low strings doing the chords, and you don't really need to go any louder, but you want a more unique color for the melody. You could double it with violins just because of the kind of distinct color they create together. Now let's just have a little listen and play around with some different examples here. Let's just take the flute here and listen to this melodic line that is just like four notes breaking down a C major chord, I think. So I have this little flute melody here. Now, if I want to double this with any other instrument, I would have to ask myself, which kind of tone color do I want? Because any other instrument that combine with this is going to change the color of the sound. Let's see what happens if I add an oboe. Or say the violin. Or maybe only violin and cello. Or maybe I want it a bit more round and warm and I add a solo horn in there. And so on. You get my point. Anytime you introduce or change some kind of instrument playing a certain part, you're going to change the tone color. So the decision of which instrument to double your existing melody line with is going to be what kind of tone color do you want to achieve? How do you want to color the sound that's already there? Do you want it to be a bit sharper? Do you want it to be more round and full and thick? Do you want it to be piercing? And, these kind of things. So that's the kind of questions that dictate which instruments you should pick. Now, it's usually nice to take some instruments that have some kind of similar tone color, just that they kind of expand on each other's qualities. Let's take the violins as an example. The violins has a pretty bright and brilliant, yet kind of warm and thick sound to them. Violins has a brilliant and bright sound to them. But if I combine them with the flute is not drastically different. The flute also has like this light and fairly bright feel to it. It's a bit more full and round. So by adding the flute to the violin melody, I'm gonna fill it out, make it a little bit more rounded off. And it sounds like this. So these instruments are kind of filling out empty spaces in each other's qualities in a way. The flute is making the violin melody more rich, more full. That said, let's move over to like a little example here. I think I took some chords, like a string chord thing, and just these same melodic movements on top of it. So let's just play around with a few different combinations of instruments and just see how it affects the color of the sound. Let's start with, say, clarinet and strings. So the clarinet has a fairly round sound, but if I add this flute legato thing to it as well, it's going to become even more round and airy. It's going to have a lot more air, feels like it's breathing a bit more. Now, maybe I want to combine some violins and octaves with it, and we're gonna get a totally different kind of sound. I'm just gonna add the basses here too to kind of balance the melodies out. Alright, let's see how the tone color changes if I like switch out the clarinet and flute and strings, or I mean violins, with cello. Let's take that. I'm gonna give it a more dark and rich tone color. But the cello is kind of close to the horn too. They both have a rich, deep tone color, so let's combine them and see how that sounds. And we have a totally different result. Let's take everything together, which again is going to blend a lot of tone colors and give us a more washed out, just big orchestral feeling. So yeah, the combination of, and doubling of instruments just basically depend on the kind of tone color you're going for. Let's take just this little theme I have right here and just show you a quick little example. So I have this little theme that goes like this with a flute and piano. Let's see if we have a little only piano. No, we don't. All right, so let's take this theme and just listen to it. Okay, so say this is like the beginning of one of our themes. But in the second half of this section or something, we add some choirs to the strings, which kind of fill out and give them a thicker quality. Let's listen to that. And maybe we add some more basses or something like that to the harmonies, but whatever. Now, the situation I'm in, I might like to double this flute melody both to give a different tone color that's going to be more distinct and pierce through the harmonic backgrounds because we have quite a bit of strings and choirs here. So just like a little flute melody might not be that audible in real life. So say I want to double now. I'd have to ask myself what kind of quality I would like. And since I want the melody to stand out a bit from the harmonies, and the harmonies have this kind of warm and round texture to them, maybe I'd like the melody to stick out a little bit more. At the same time, I don't want it to sound misplaced, so I want something that's a bit close to what's already going on. So just my immediate first bet would be, say, violins for this example. The first violins doubling the flute melody. Now this will give it a little bit different tone color. It's gonna give it some more power to pierce through. It's gonna make it a little bit more sharp and bright with the texture of the violins, and it's gonna thicken out and like just make the melody line a bit more rich. Let's listen to what that sounds like. So yeah, that's a quick little introduction to the principle of doubling instruments. So just keep in mind, try to double by tone color and not by range. When you need to double something, think about what kind of tone color would I want to achieve and what instrument can I use together with the current instrument, and also a little bit based on the instruments that are playing, say the background or something like that, to make it blend in, yet add to the music, add to the tonal quality of it. Something that expands on what's already there. So I hope this little video was helpful, and we will move on to some other orchestration techniques. I'll see you guys soon.